if you've logged in, you're looking at us watching something go round and round on a screen, but that's okay. It'll happen.
Hey guys, okay, this is our second webinar for Software House. Today we're going to be talking about 5 simple steps to start a business. And we've actually got some PowerPoint presentations that we'll throw up as we go through. To start with, Hector and I are going to talk through just some very simple basics. So, what are the 5 key things behind successful business startup?
Really, before you start on that process, you need to do some market research. I've been in the business coaching business now for some time, and there are a number of things that you have to think of before you start. You can't just go, oh, I'm going to start a business and run out and set up yourself in business and everything's going to be sweet and rosy. It just doesn't work that way. So the first thing you need to ask yourself and need to plan for is, what type of business are you going to start? Are you going to set up something that's online only? Are you going to set up a shop front? Are you going to be B2B? There's a number of things that you have to look at before you actually kick off and go, well, I'm going to go into business. Everyone thinks, you know, you go into business and it's magical and you're successful. That's not true. The people who succeed are the people who plan. If you don't plan, you will fail.
So actually, this is something that's talked about in the book that I talked about on Thursday night, which is Michael E. Gerber's book on the E-myth. And basically, he talks about 3 different people who will be needed in a business. One is the technician, which are the people who are really good at what they do, and they generally are working for someone as a highly skilled person in a trade or in a service business, or it might be a computer program or something like that. And they will be go out and start a business thinking they're going to make a lot more money, free themselves up and have this lovely lifestyle. But they're missing 2 other key ingredients. 1, the manager, the detail person who's going to look after the books. And 3, the entrepreneur, the person who's going to plan ahead and think about the future and how things are really going to be, who's going to actually have the dream and the thing that's going to drive them to go to that next level up.
You can do all that yourself. That's no problem. If you've got all of those skills, all those attributes in one person, that's fantastic. The way we've done it is we've got what they call finder, minder, grinder. So Paul's the finder. He's the guy who goes out there and talks to people because he's gregarious. And I'm the minder. I sit in the back room and make sure that the accounting's done and make sure that the plan's followed and that I keep Paul on track. And we've got the grinder, Dan, who's in the back room. Again, but he doesn't really get to deal with the public. He's our programmer. He deals with our programmers. So if you've got all of those skills in one person in your business, that's great. You're just not going to get a lot of sleep.
And it's okay. Daniel's got a window so he can actually see sunlight. So
yeah, but he has to stand up. He's only short and the window starts at about this side. Okay, getting back on track. The next thing is, what market are you servicing? What are you selling to? Are you selling into a local market? So you're going to set up a corner store kind of thing, or are you going to go to a larger market where you're dealing with all of your region or all of your city, or are you going to go statewide or nationally, or are you looking at an international market? And it's all very well to assume that you're going to attack an international market. That's great, but you have to have the infrastructure behind you to be able to do that. So before you do that, start looking at the things that make it work. The next thing is, who, where, and what are your potential customers? So if you don't know who they are, what they look like, what they buy, where they shop, what their buying habits are, then you're probably going to struggle a little bit. If you were, for argument's sake, selling only online into rural areas with no internet service or patchy internet service, you're probably not going to do so well. Looking at that, the first thing you have to look at is economic conditions. There are a number of ways to do that. You can look at some of the population and economic projections for your area. There are statistics available on a number of websites, particularly government websites. And with the 2016 census last year, which 96% of people participated in anyway, there's some fairly good information out there as to who's who and who's where in the community. The next thing you have to look at is the economic forecast for your region. Now, I used to develop real estate in central Queensland. Everything was going gangbusters. There were jobs galore. What I looked at when I was doing that, though, was when that was going to stop. So I looked at government websites and I looked at Australian Bureau of Statistics information and worked out when all of those construction jobs that were going on in the mining industry were going to pull up. And it was about 2016 they were going to stop. And sure enough, they stopped in about 2016. 62,000 jobs turned into 25,000 jobs. The economy in the area fell in a hole, and everyone went, how did that happen? Well, it's simple. They didn't read the numbers. So know what your economic forecast is for the area that you're going into. Know whether you're going into a market or into a product range that's going to say. The other thing you need to know is what are your main industry employment sectors in the area. There will be a number of ways that, sorry, Paul, I just need to scroll back to that one. How did I do that?
You have to go back, sorry, jump back over to the PowerPoint.
You're right. What are your major industry employers in the workforce, or are you dealing primarily with a trades workforce? What's the general education level in your area? How do you gauge the building activity in your area? Are there new people moving into your area? Now, if you're in North Lakes, which is the fastest growing area in Queensland, that's great because there's new population arriving all of the time, and there are things that they're going to need. So you pick your target market. The other thing you have to look at is the ethnicity and birthplaces of your area. It's very difficult to sell, for argument's sake, Middle Eastern regional food to a primarily Chinese and Vietnamese population. So you have to take those things into consideration when you start up your business. All of that information is available. The Australian Bureau of Statistics website has a lot of that stuff available. Population data, how old people are, what employment sectors they're working in, all of those things. Income demographics are also available. Household data, how many average people there are in a household, population densities, all of those things are available. If you're not looking at this information before you set out in business, there's a fairly good chance you're not going to do as well as you could. Does that make sense, Paul?
Yeah, it does. That makes
sense. I'll stop talking now.
Okay, next thing you need to look at is your competition and suppliers. So obviously Google's a great one for that. Also LinkedIn is another really good one to check out your competition.
LinkedIn has changed. Don't be afraid of it. It looks a lot different this morning than it did a week ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Microsoft has done a big overhaul on it.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know they owned it. So, yeah, get on Google, do some research in your local area, have a look at how many businesses are servicing in the same sort of marketplace that you are. The next one after that is your local and regional competition. Again, Google's really good. Also, Chamber of Commerce is also very good to see what businesses are available there. Used to be the Yellow Pages, but not so much anymore.
Look, they're not just a computer monitor stand. You can actually do an online Yellow Pages search, and you'll find all of the businesses in your industry sector. They're trying to be relevant. All of the businesses in your industry sector with whom you're going to be competing. The beauty of that is that you can ring them up and find out what their price points are if you've got enough chutzpah, and then work out whether you want to be higher priced than them and offer a better service, or lower priced than them and cut corners. Now, if they're offering at a particular price and they've been in business for a while, they've probably figured out what makes money. So very carefully think about how you do that.
Another one is your traditional network marketing or networking. Yeah, get into the actual networks, have a talk to people in the same business as you.
Absolutely.
Even trial some of their services. I do that quite often. I'll get in people who are in a similar sort of market space to me, and we'll trial out their services and see, what sort of quality they're offering, how good the service is that they're offering.
And particularly in that networking sphere, if you ask for help, most people will give it to you. Now, if you ask for help on stealing their customers, they're probably going to be a little antsy about that. But they'll give you some idea of what's going on, because in the networking sphere, they're comfortable enough to go out there and put their the other thing that you have to look at with your local and regional, or your brick and mortar competitors and your online competitors to what you're currently doing, is why are they doing it that way, and who are they targeting to in their market? If they've been around a while, that's what works. So how do you differentiate yourself from them? That's up to you. Often the difference comes down to service. If you're a pest controller and you turn up with a tea bag and a sandwich or a packet of biscuits and have a cup of tea with one of your customers at 9 o'clock in the morning before you start work, that might be the point of difference that gets you over the line. I know that a friend of mine, Mark Stem, did that, and it worked very well for him. I'm not suggesting you have to do that if you're selling, bicycles or something like that, but work out what's going to be a point of difference.
And actually, it's very important that you do this. This actually gives you insight into how businesses work. One of the things I've done in the past is come in as an actual supplier to my competitors,
Yep.
Providing services and things like that, which has given me a bit of insight into how they run their business. And
Yep.
also a lot of them are generally very open to show you how they actually operate and what they do.
Most of them are proud of what they've done.
They are, and a lot of them have actually shown me their internal systems and things like that, which has helped us work out where we can fit in sort of that area of business. So that's worked out really well for us in the past doing that.
That's true. The other place to look if you're doing online sales is look on eBay and see what people are selling it for. You've got this fantastic idea to sell computer parts on eBay. Go on eBay and have a look at how cheaply they're being sold. You'll realise there's no margin in what you're trying to do. For services, look on Gumtree. A lot of the advertisements on Gumtree are actually for services rather than products. So, financial benchmarking. Here we go. This is the ugly stuff. Website, there are a plethora. Yes, and if you go to the ATO website, they won't track your data, so it's not like they're following you. So, on their website, they've got a number of benchmarks on what industries in your industry sector, your chosen industry sector, should be doing. So if you're running a restaurant with less than $500,000 a year turnover, they will tell you how much your rent should be as a percentage of your gross income, how much wages should be, how much your cost of food that you purchase should be, and how much your other overheads should be. So you can work out what your costs are going to be based on the size of your business, small, medium, and large, within what's going on the ATO website. There's a huge amount of data that they've backed up over the years, and it's all been drawn from real sources. It's been drawn from BAS statements, from the GST and sales tax preparation.
Marie, I have seen your little note. What happened to community profile? So we'll revisit that in a sec.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We skipped clean over that one. On the ATO website, there's a whole heap of stuff that they've pulled out of tax returns and out of BAS returns, and they've created from that a profile of the business population, all of the businesses that are available out there in the marketplace and complying with the law, obviously. So you can actually pull in data that's on businesses similar to yours or similar to where you're aiming, and know what you should expect. And if you're doing better than those averages, fantastic. Those benchmarks are important. They also give you a population profile for your area, the ATO. Community profile. We'll just scroll back a couple of slides because we skipped that one in a hurry. On the Bureau of Statistics website again, there's a profile of what's happening in your suburb and in the suburbs around you and in your entire city. So there's information on what the ages are, the age brackets of the people in your population. So if you're going to sell, I don't know, wheelchairs and hearing aids, for argument's sake, and you're going to sell them in a suburb like Yarrabilba or in Hervey Bay, you might want to think again, because they're growing suburbs with very young populations. On the other hand, if you're going to sell, I don't know, baseball caps, you're probably not going to sell them quite so well on the Cleveland foreshore, where everyone's baby boomer and they've got themselves three investment properties and they're in their 70s.
And actually, this came into effect when we did that research for the Learn to Swim pool for Oscreek.
Yes.
So we were looking for, obviously, Learn to Swim pools. Basically, toddlers and small children will use them primarily,
yep.
And a little bit in the aged care sector if it's heated and it's got the proper wheelchair ramp into it.
Yep.
So looking on the Bureau's or the ABS website, you can have a look in that area and see what that age bracket was.
That's right.
And then we had to check out after that to see whether there was an actual swimming pool within that area that could service those people. And we found a number of places which worked out. It's really good.
That's right. I did a fair bit of market research for Paul when we were looking at setting up swim schools all over Australia. And as you said, there's stuff on the ABS website that you just wouldn't believe, provided you take the time to look at it. Yeah, there's a lot of words. That's the nature of research. The other thing that they've got there is income demographics. Who's earning what? Now, those things changed fairly rapidly after the failure of the mining boom or the downturn in the mining boom in Queensland. As the mining boom came off the boil, income in the trades dropped from around $150,000 to $300,000 a year down to around $80,000 to $130,000 a year. That changes fairly massively what's going on in your local area if you're affected by that. You can also drill down on household data, and I mentioned this earlier, how many people there are in the household in the area. And you can drill down, if you wish, even further into your area. And I think it goes down to about a quarter of a suburb. But you can look at, if you're marketing into the Sydney market, you can look at who's what's happening in Sydney, how your population is distributed. And I know in the recent census data, it's shown that Melbourne has almost caught Sydney in terms of population. So if you're in Melbourne, hey, you've got a booming population.
They're actually saying 2050 and Melbourne will be bigger than Sydney.
Yep.
Which is a bit of a head spin.
And by 2050, Brisbane will be still third, but it'll be very close to Sydney in size, because that Brisbane Southeast Queensland corridor has been growing rapidly. I know that just in the area around here, there's 60,000 houses being built in the last 5 years. Doesn't sound like a lot till you actually work out there's 3 people per house.
And Sam also pointed out here, the ANZ Small Business Hub is also extremely useful.
Yep. If you've got resources that you can use for this research, sit down and read it. It's worth your time doing research rather than being busy out there building your widgets. This is the whole point of this webinar. Know what you're getting into before you get into it. Don't jump and then work out how high it should have been that you jumped, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they say you don't plan to fail, you fail to plan.
There's a lot of that out there.
It happens all the time. You know, the number of businesses we talk to who have they've lucked into somewhere where they've made a bit of profit and they've expanded and expanded, and they don't know exactly why that's happened. And then when it changes, it's like the sky's falling. You know, all hands on deck. We're going down, and then they try and work out what's going on, and then they'll start doing the plan. Which, if you're doing one now, that's fine. It's better to get it started now than never.
But just a word of warning there, a lot of these government websites recommend that you have a business plan, and they'll give you a template for a business plan. It's a fantastic idea, except it's 170 pages long. Bom, bom.
Yeah, that's a bit of a killer. And Sam just said life does get in the way. You know, if you've got family and other commitments too, they can slow you up. But having a plan, like as long as you're making some progress towards a final end goal, and you need to have an end goal when you go into business. I think when we started up Software House, we actually set a 5-year plan of where we want it to be. And so we're working towards that, and we'll revisit that when we get close to that time and reset that goal. So we know as long as we're moving towards that end goal, whether or not life gets in the way, we know that we're making progress.
It did that for us. We had these grand plans at this time last year for Software House, and we had quite a number of things going on. November. But we took the time to back off, and rather than make a mistake and run down the wrong path for 6 months, we backed off and worked out what we were meant to be doing and chose a better path. If you're not in a financial position to do that, that's fine. Do something that works for you, but don't necessarily rush out and make a mistake and then keep repeating the mistake because that's what you started to do. It's a bit like the kid who leaves school at 15 and goes down to the local timber mill and asks for a casual job, and 45 years later he's still working there going, well, I wasted my life. Well, he just didn't plan.
Yeah, Marie, you're right. When we change between PowerPoint and live video, I think there's a bit of lag that pops up, so it might be missing a bit there.
Oops.
One of the big
technology.
None of this is rocket science. Like doing a business plan and setting your business up so it will have a better chance of success is it's not overly complicated to do.
Oh, you can make it complicated though if you try.
Yeah, it is easy to make it complicated. There's a lot of stuff out there that will sort of muddy the water, make things very unclear on how you should go. It doesn't need to be that way. One of the biggest stresses people are going to obviously have is back on their financial position, and that takes us down to the last one, which is our financial projections. So I won't actually flick over to the slide this time. We'll walk through it. I'll make the slide available for download. You'll get an email afterwards, which will have the replay in it. I'll also make sure that you'll see the link to the actual slide in that as well. But anyway, financial projections.
Okay, this scares most people.
Yeah, this is a big one. Most people really don't get their head around this.
No, and this is the reason you do a business plan. The rest of it, doing your market research and that sort of thing, that's fantastic. Here it comes down to the nitty-gritty. What are you selling? How much are you selling it for? How many of them do you need to sell to be profitable? So the first thing you need to do is calculate what your pricing model is going to be, whether you're going to charge by a unit, whether that you're selling, I don't know, chewing gum, or selling hours, or whether you're selling a particular volume of something.
So ours are generally service-based businesses.
Yeah, service-based businesses, but you can also work how many hours go into the manufacture of a product. For instance, I used to work in a business that sold sheds. One of the things that we had to do is work out the materials that went into the shed. The second thing we had to do is work out how many hours labour went into manufacturing a shed. Labour was actually 4 times as much as the materials. It's just the way it is. So,
that's pretty much for all the building industry in Australia now.
Yeah,
because labour costs are so high.
Yep.
I know
biggest component of any construction.
Yep, is the actual manpower. It's huge.
When you're paying carpenters $65 an hour, you figure it out. It doesn't take many hours. So calculate your pricing to determine the potential of your business. So if you've got 1,000 units and you need to make $8,000 a week to cover all of your costs and make enough money to live on and buy a jet ski and a holiday home in Tuscany, then you need to sell 1,000 units at $8. If you can manufacture 2,000 units, can you sell them at $4 or can you sell them at $6? That's the sort of thing you have to ask yourself. But calculate your pricing initially. Work out what the potential of your business is. Work out whether you're going to make enough money to actually survive on. The second thing is work with a range of efficiency percentages. So I can make 4 of these things in an hour and I'll work 50 hours a week, I can make 200. I'll bet you don't. I'll bet you that if you can make 4 in an hour and you can work 50 hours, you're probably going to work at around about 60 to 70% efficiency. Why? Because you've got to go to the toilet and you've got to go and have a drink and you've got to have a break and there'll be an interruption and someone will come to the workshop and interrupt you. That happens. Most people think there's 365 days in a year. There's only 221. Why did I say that? There's 365 days in a year. 104 of them are weekend days. 20 of them are annual leave. 8 are sick days. There are 12 public holidays. You've only got 221 days in a year. So before you start running off and working out numbers on how many days you've got or how many units you can produce, work out where you're going to lose stuff. That's really important. Most people overestimate the capacity. Second thing is look at high, medium and low scenarios. So what's your best case scenario if you get maximum efficiency based on your 70 or 80% or whatever you've done, and work those figures out over 6 or 8 weeks, how efficient you can be at producing whatever it is you do. Traveling between clients, you might have 8 client appointments booked up in a day, for argument's sake, in the service industry.
Yep.
And each client takes an hour. Okay, so I've got an 8-hour day. Wrong. You've got a 12-hour day. It's half an hour between clients. That's pretty straightforward. So what are your high and medium and low expectations? If you're going to have a bad day, if something goes wrong, like yesterday the internet kept crashing on us in my graphics business, and we'll fix that later in the day. What's your low scenario for the day? What's the minimum you can get by on? And then, everyone hates these, run profit and loss scenarios. If you don't know how, get hold of a bookkeeper and get them to show you how to operate a profit and loss statement. Get them, if you can't do it yourself, to put it into an Excel spreadsheet so you can run scenarios for yourself. How many can we sell? What if I don't only sell? What if I only sell this many? How do I survive? So what do we want? What do we need? And what must we achieve? What's the absolute minimum we can get by on before we start burning money, losing money?
And these are really baseline sort of figures that you need to understand.
Yeah.
So if your business does start to shift and move, you can start making corrections before it becomes critical.
Yeah.
So you need to have
if you're not paying attention to what's happening in your business, it will bite you.
Yeah, it really
happens.
And plan your marketing program. This is a huge one that most businesses just totally forget about. Usually they get a really good...
Everyone will know about me because I put my name on the flyer.
Changed a lot too. Like your traditional flyers, your yellow pages, even radio advertising and TV advertising and things like that don't get the traction that they used to.
They're dead and don't know it.
Social media marketing is absolutely massive. Like if you have a look on your phone, every time you scroll through your Facebook feed or you're checking out your latest Instagram things, they are advertising to you. And a lot of it's using soft sell. A lot of it isn't a hard marketing type program where they've got the buy now, get 20 of them at half price for the next 15 minutes. A lot of them are actually very soft sell and they're quite technical in how they set them up. And a lot of them actually have a very sort of smooth lead in. You don't actually realize you're getting sold to until you're making the purchase at the end. That could be 3 or 4 steps before that you actually started down that path.
Actually, if you look at Facebook, watch the ads that MYOB is doing on Facebook. They write these little articles on what's happening in business and what the new successful businesses are doing. And you get to the bottom of around about 700 words, and it always comes down to they're using MYOB. think they're hurting because Xero's taking a big chunk of their market, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't be so rude on the phone. I've had some run-ins with MYOB people. I think they get the gist now, getting a lot of very friendly phone calls from them, but we use Xero, obviously. And budget for your marketing. Make sure you've got some sort of finances set aside for your actual marketing in the long term. Like, this is not something you just put one ad out there and expect to get a return. This is something you need to run for a minimum of 3 months to start to see any sort of figures actually coming back that are useful. Most businesses that are successful with this, they'll be running it for 12 months minimum to see some sort of traction taking up. And the longer you do it, the more, how would you say?
More credibility you gain.
Yeah, the more credibility you gain, and the bigger it's going to grow over time. So if you can stick in it for 3 or 4 years, you'll see some major stuff take up on it.
You've got to create for yourself a place in the market that's consistent. There's a lot of people out there who are Facebook marketers, and they do images that they stick up on Facebook, and even the big companies get this wrong. It's got to be something that's attention-grabbing. It's got to be something that's high contrast, particularly on Facebook, to stand out from Facebook's sort of white background. So if you're basically, I've got a white banner going up on your Facebook ads, you're going to be missed because it just gets missed in the 27,000 other messages that people see during the day. So you've got to do something that grabs people's attention, but it can't be just by this. It's more happy smiley faces or bright coloured text on dark coloured backgrounds that give you a reason to want to click on it. So free money, I've seen that one, that works. Free money, really? I'm curious.
Anyway, next one we've got after that is establish your financial fallback before rushing into things. This is a big one. This is huge.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a plan B, because there's a good chance plan A may not take off straight away, and you're going to need plan B to make sure that you can keep going to get plan A going.
Your eventual plan will be a combination of plan A, plan B, plan F for fail, and plan G probably. You'll change things along the way, particularly if you're doing something new in the market. If you're a lawyer, then you're setting out and marketing yourself in the law. That's great. There's some pretty strict rules on what you can and can't do. But if you're doing what we're doing, and that is pushing out a software development business to the market, we've had to change direction about 15 times. But it's okay. We're all still headed in the same direction. But you've got to have some sort of economic fallback or financial fallback plan if you don't have that success nailed down right from the get-go. You've got to be able to survive through 3 or 4 months rather than go, I failed, and go back to your job and try and find it after you quit it.
Yeah, there's an old saying, when you're standing right on the very edge, it doesn't take much to push you right off.
Yeah,
that's make sure you got
the guy on the top step of the ladder. You know, the guy in the second position on the ladder's got all of the strength.
Exactly. Now, key to all this is having proper systems implemented and actually being able to manage your business in a timely manner, not to mention being able to handle growth in your business in a timely manner as well. So once you have all this planning sort of laid out, and it doesn't need to be extensive, it doesn't need to be a 160-page document that sits in the bottom of your drawer for the rest of your life.
Under your monitor.
It can just be a guideline on how you see your business working, having your basic figures worked out, having a good description of your target market is very important, but then having a system or a set of systems set up, which can be off-the-shelf cloud-based systems, can be custom-written systems. In some sense, you can probably just get away with some written systems if you're game enough and if you're disciplined enough to actually get those bits of paper out and follow them again.
True.
But one of the things that we do at Software House is we do set up systems, and we do help businesses implement those to help their businesses run a lot smoother.
If you're in doubt of where you are, ask for help. Software House has got a range of different help portals. Watch the Software House Digital Go-Getters and Entrepreneurs posts on Facebook. If you're not already in that group, search that and ask for permission to get in. I'll usually let you in within 30 seconds if you've been on the internet for more than 5 minutes. We've got a professional webinar range. We've got half-day workshops, which Paul and I will be running. We've got 2-day intensive workshops, which are coming up. Website and app consulting. So if you need work on your website, talk to Paul. He's the front man for that. There's a whole heap of things going on that we can offer assistance to small business. And
on the 27th of July, we're going to be running a half-day workshop in Brisbane.
Yep.
Daniel is going to chuck up the little ad on the right-hand side there. Sorry. We've actually got a half price for everybody that's in the webinar right now. If you want to click on that link and type in half price in the coupon section where you get the discount, we're doing half price on that. Now, that will take you through the basics on systemizing your business and setting up your systems so that you can automate a lot of what you're doing. We're actually pretty excited about that. We're looking at implementing a lot of our new app that we've been developing, which is called the Real-Time Management System. And that includes a lot of other systems like your CRM, your accounting package, and all that together in one nice, easy thing. It makes it a lot easier for you to expand your business later on. And it's based off a lot of the stuff you'll see written in the book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber.
Yep. None of this is new.
No.
We're just serving it up in a way that it's more accessible to people.
So anyway, that's it, guys. If you've got any
contact
questions,
details on that last slide.
There'll be a little survey that'll happen after this. You can jump in there and put in any questions and ask any things that you'd like us to answer next time. And we'll talk to you next time. And this is going to have a replay available in about an hour's time. You'll get an email. And everybody that's on the registered for the webinar will send out the PowerPoint presentation to you as well, so you can review that. Anyway, we'll catch you guys in a fortnight.
See you guys.